Awesome. All right. Well, good afternoon. My name is Colin Campbell. I'm a planner with the Ohio Emergency Management Agency. I am the lead planner for the Ohio Eclipse Planning Task Force from Ohio EMA. And as I alluded to, I was almost not going to be able to present today. And one of my team members, my supervisor, was going to come on board. Kind of an example to show that this effort in Ohio is not a singular focus spot, but really a team effort across the board from many, many members. So really, I want to highlight how, from the state perspective, emergency management, all the things that Mark and Lori had talked about, how we're trying to implement, and the why. I'm a big proponent of the so what. So I want to kind of showcase some of the things that are going to impact Ohio and why we're able to use the things that they're talking about and how they're already having benefits for us, and what hopefully our goal is to be able to address. I'm going to finish up with something I hope will help you out when we go into the breakout sessions to kind of get some real world look. I'm going to finish, if time allows, with a video excerpt from the 2017 news broadcast right after the eclipse concluded, to kind of give you an immediate measure of what it looked like when it ended and how that impacted the roads and how much of a highlight that is going to be after this amazing event. So right off the back, Ohio, we took into consideration when we started planning efforts in 2021 because of numbers like this. In 2017, 12 million people versus 32 million people. That's just people along the path. And the reason why some of this is important is because when we go to talk to our partners, when we go to talk to other state agencies and people who are going to be responsible for responding to this, both locally and at the state level, this is an important thing to point out that, this is happening, and these are the numbers, people who are going to be impacted by this event. So when we take a look at Ohio, we talked about the same things that were already occurring in some of the other areas that the population influx that is going to occur from this. But how is that population influx going to affect Ohio? Well, 55 counties lie within the totality line, with either within the totality area or adjacent to it, which is part of the county in there. That still takes a good chunk of 55 out of our 88 counties that are going to be impacted by totality. There's still those that have to travel around that. For those that kind of know the state a little bit, along the lake, we have I-90 cutting through it. You have I-71, I-75, I-70, all those interstate routes coming from east and west. Just like Mark had kind of alluded to, the population influx that we're looking from is going to be mainly we're seeing is probably going to be from the east and from the south. But one of the other things that is going to be a driving factor for us is not just the population influx, but the movement of that group into areas that are fairly rural and dependent on the weather. Keep in mind, for us in the Northeast, April's kind of a fickle month. We could have snow, we could have month. I saw somebody in the chat talk about that they're near the Canadian border and they could have snow, or they could have mud, they could have sunshine. 2021, 2022, we both had partially cloudy skies in 60 degrees here in central Ohio. By the end of the week this year, we dropped back down to the 30s. Last year, we had snow by the end of the week. So that population influx and that last minute time frame is something that, for emergency managers, we've been talking to our communities like, hey, be prepared for that movement at the last minute. How is that going to impact your traffic routes? We understand what these extreme demands are going to be based off what happened in 2017. Extreme demands on food and fuel along those travel routes, people stopping to get the stuff, people who are going to be in roads for a while, deciding they're going to break off and go get something to eat, go to the grocery stores and things like that. Understanding that having those network conversations, acting, as Lori said, is going to be fantastic. You're going to want to get out and talk to your communities, talk to groups right there, because there are plans people have in place to be able to accommodate when events happen. It's just you're having a lot of events all at once. So talking to vendors about, hey, making sure your fuel tanks are topped off if you're near the travel routes, making sure your vendors have already ordered food, things like that, to make sure that they can accommodate the rush that's going to come in here so that they can have an amazing event and not have it as an incident. Understand that this is going to stress the local infrastructure. So this is where it's important as emergency managers for us partnering with our traffic management, with our MPOs through our Ohio Department of Transportation, is to understand that this is going to kind of stress it out, be it communication, be it the travel management capabilities, those things right there. And then communities are going to want to look at this as a local income generation. They're going to want to do merchandise and they're going to want to have events. I've seen today people talking about the festivals that they had in 2017. Missouri has some fantastic examples there. And educational opportunities. People are going to want to come out and see this once in a generational because not a lot of people are going to be able to get to this. Remember how much larger that number is compared to 2017. So take the things that we've talked here, that Lori and Mark had talked about. Those are the things that we're doing here in Ohio. Those are the things we are talking about. We're getting out and talking and joining organizations, but also don't be afraid to go talk to your neighbors. We've talked to Michigan. We've talked to Indiana. We sit on their task force in Indiana. They sit on ours. We've talked to Illinois through FEMA Region 5 and now absolutely been talking to New York, Rochester, New York. Compliments to you all. You have a fantastic thing going on up there and we'd like to see that. And so those are the things that in emergency management is you're going to want to make sure you know what the issues are and know what the impacts are going to be. So I'm going to go into a video to kind of give that summary to show about where the issues were in 2017 and kind of give you an idea and help with the discussions when we do the breakout.
We are here in Charleston where we witnessed that once-in-a-lifetime
cosmic
event along with millions of Americans today, the total solar eclipse. The first seen coast to coast across America in nearly a century. This NASA satellite image showing the shadow of the moon moving across the country. And down here, millions drawn together to take in the breathtaking view from Oregon to the Adler Planetarium in Chicago to Times Square in New York City. Tonight, the massive traffic as millions now try to make their way home. Our team across the entire country today, and ABC senior national correspondent Matt Gutman leading us off.
After so much anticipation, it arrived right on schedule. The celestial matinee turning night today in Lincoln City, Oregon, the first stop for totality.
Oh my, it is just absolutely spectacular. Look how dark it is, how quiet it is. The air is still. This is like being in the eye of a hurricane.
Next up, the place known as Solar City.
I'm almost speechless. The crowd here is absolutely ecstatic. I'm going to have our cameraman, Glenn, turn down the lights so you actually get a sense of how... Turn it off, Glenn. Let's see how dark it really is. It's pitch black here. This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
Madras, Oregon going dark for 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Then that sliver of sun coming back.
100,000 people just in this part of Oregon outside of Madras, feasting their eyes on a spectacle that many of us will never get to see again.
The shadow marching eastward, averaging 1,800 miles an hour, reaching a place known as Carhenge in Alliance, Nebraska. American cars forming a replica of Stonehenge built by a family 30 years ago.
38 cars rescued from nearby farms, from the dumps. They painted them all gray, but right now you can't see the color. You can just see the outline of them under that extraordinary moment there.
The spectacle landing in city after city, including the so-called capital of the eclipse, Carbondale, Illinois. But Carbondale, which should have had 2 minutes and 41 seconds of darkness, was darkened by something else. Clouds.
You guys have brought us into the drama. You've got 45 seconds there, and it all depends on the weather system above you.
Thousands who traveled there crestfallen.
They're looking up because this might be the only and best shot of it they get.
But then, with just seconds left, the clouds part.
There it is. There it is.
What an extraordinary gift right there in the last final few seconds.
In Kelly, Kentucky, something else emerges in the sky.
And we can see Venus at this point here in Kelly, Kentucky.
I love the fact that you can see Venus.
Even the president stepping out of the White House to watch. Finally, the last major stop for the Great American Eclipse, Charleston, South Carolina. The clouds cooperating.
You know, it really puts us in our place as far as our role in the cosmos, doesn't it? The fact that we here on Earth are part of something much bigger.
And then sky gazers starting to make the long journey home. In remote Rigby, Idaho, bumper-to-bumper traffic for miles.
You can see the traffic coming out of Idaho Falls goes as far as the eye can see.
This traffic jam started precisely as the eclipse ended. People already had packed, gotten into their cars.
One family heading back to California.
And how long do you expect that to take you with this traffic?
About 20 hours.
20 hours? Was it worth it? 20 hours?
Oh, yeah!
As it was for a nation of Americans soaking up the Great American Eclipse.
That was a resounding answer from that family there, Matt. Matt Gutman joining us live tonight from Madras, Oregon. The total eclipse was really stunning, especially where you are. But now, hours later, those lines, that traffic, people still trying to get out.
That's right, David. Early we saw the Great American Eclipse, but this afternoon we got to see the Great American Escape. And tonight, broad swaths of the Northwest in gridlock. In fact, it took people over 3 hours just to get out of the parking lot here in Solarfest. And I asked one motorist, was it worth it? She responded, it was totality worth it. Got to have a sense of humor, David.
We get it, Matt. The Great American Eclipse and now the Great
Totality.
Trip.
All right. So they did a great job covering it. So what you can see there, and I hope you picked up on a couple things when you're looking at that. One of the things that I really like to highlight when I use that video is to showcase traffic management out of the parking lot. What did you all notice there? That wasn't law enforcement that was there. Keep in mind, things like local law enforcement and state law enforcement will be very limited in what they can do. Your volunteer organizations and having conversations very early with them to be able to start getting that will be important, because they can manage that to get them out to the roadways. Your law enforcement and communities will be needed to manage that wherever they can get the traffic. Are they going to be needed for those responsibilities? So what you're seeing on the screen right now, is from the National Operations Center of Excellence, a model that showed what traffic looked like heading into the eclipse and then the rush when it came out in 2017. Right now, when you take a look at that, that line is heading back to the major urban area, Chicago area. At one point in time, that line is almost 1/3 the length of the state of Illinois. So we want to understand that these are going to be the traffic issues that we're going to face in 2024, mirroring what we saw in 2017 along the major metropolitan areas. That earlier in this segment, we saw the MPOs that showed like Ohio. Ohio has a ton of the MPO sections, and those are major concerns for this traffic issues here because of the fact how interconnected we are to the states around us when it comes to traffic. So make sure you're taking into account those, work with your different organizations, work with the traffic authorities in your area to come up with a unified plan, because you are going to have these issues like what you see here for community planning, the population surge. You're going to need help with crowd management, increased roadway hazards and staffing needs, and ensure you're remembering the cost. Ohio's already been talking about cost assessment and has moved forward with certain things like trying to put stuff into next year's budget to make sure we can try to assist with some of these costs the communities are going to incur. Again, route planning, especially towards the egress when everybody leaves around 3:15, 3:20, or depending on where you are along the route, or excuse me, the eclipse path will be when you'll see a large rush of people going out there. So just like I heard earlier, some of the other mottos out there, come early, stay late is what we're going with in Ohio. We want people to enjoy what we have here in the Buckeye State, and we want them to be able to enjoy it safely. And the longer they stay here, the more they can invest in our communities and not have to have that mad rush on the road. Keep in mind also that longer traffic routes, people going on there, the time of day when that is going to impact folks. Those are things you can relay to your community to help you with buy-in from people with policyholders with authority to help them get on board with your plans. And remember, a lot of the plans should be really centered around the health and safety welfare. So I'm not really going to touch on this one right here. If you have questions for me, I have my email in here, but just as an example, some state efforts from Ohio's level, we did inform an eclipse planning task force that includes locals and our response efforts, along with our subject matter experts from NASA and our higher education from the astronomy departments. We developed our state plans and we've been exercising that plans, and we opened those exercises up to our planning partners from adjacent states. Indiana and New York have both were able to observe our last tabletop, and the invites out there for the next one, because again, information sharing is going to be key here. And again, we continue to prepare guidance documents and things to help our communities, be it templates, which again, thank you to Missouri. Those have been fantastic and well received. And we've centralized our information on our State Eclipse website. And I encourage you all to do the same. If you have abilities to set up web pages, put as much information as you can in there. Use the systems and tools that are out there to be able to kind of share that information so people aren't searching, so that you can guide their narrative a little bit, so you can see where people are going to go, see the trends, and understand where there is going to be the impacts so that you can plan accordingly for that. And with that, I hope you all get a chance to check out eclipseohio.gov, plug there for that. And my email is here. If you have questions, I'll be here, and I'll see you all in the breakout session. Thank you.